My daughter Eleanor, she's our third child, and when she was very, very young, about 6 weeks old, she had her first incident of asthma. We took her to the doctor and they put her on a liquid Ventolin for babies, and that was a real shock to me because our other children had never had breathing difficulties, and so that was the first time that she was put on medication at 6 weeks old. She had her first major asthma attack when she was about 18 months old. I was cooking in the kitchen, I had the stove going, and she was behind me and she started coughing and she was going red in the face. And of course, for any parent, just the worry for her in that moment. And I just scooped her up and we just rushed to the hospital and we stayed there overnight where they gave her intensive Ventolin and steroids in order to help her to breathe again. And that happened 2 more times before the age of 3. But between each hospital visit, just every virus, she would be struggling to breathe and we'd have to go to the doctor and have medicine administered to her by the nurse.
Sydney's Eleanor Alexander spent the first 5 years of her daughter's life worrying about her respiratory health. But by the time Eleanor turned 6, her asthma symptoms had vanished into thin air.
She no longer had any more issues with her breathing. When she had a virus, she had no more problems with asthma. She didn't need her preventer, she didn't need her Ventolin anymore, and she just seemed to be well.
Put a little bit of sugar in.
For a couple of years, the Alexanders had no idea what was behind this welcome improvement in Eleanor's health, until an article on the Asthma Australia website made everything fall into place.
I had been reading about the impacts of gas, particularly on young children, and I realised at that point that the reason why Eleanor was no longer suffering from her asthma symptoms was because we had gotten off the gas when she was about 5 years old. It was at that point that we noticed that things started to improve. And so we are absolutely sure that it was the gas in the home that was causing these problems for her.
It might be tempting to write this off as a coincidence, but Annalise's conclusion is backed up by some alarming statistics. Public health physician Dr. Kate Charlesworth co-authored a recent report exposing the health hazards of household gas.
Children are more at risk from air pollution because they have immature lung and immune systems, and also they have a high respiratory rate, so they actually breathe faster. So what the research has shown is that of all the childhood asthma in Australia, up to 12% of that can be attributed to gas cooking in the home, and that a child living with gas cooking in the home has a comparable risk of asthma to a child living with household cigarette smoke.
It really shocked us. We had felt that gas was something that was safe and clean to have in our home, and then to understand that this was introducing all sorts of other dangerous gases into the lungs of our children, that was a real shock to us and something that we would never have done if we had known that that was what it was doing to our children.
Unfortunately, the health impacts of gas don't stop at our children's lungs.
Gas is a polluting fossil fuel. It's fueling dangerous climate change, which threatens everything we love. It threatens all of our futures.
Climate Council Research Director Dr. Simon Bradshaw says it's important for us to think about climate change as a global health crisis.
By changing the climate, we're changing the whole context in which we're living. We're driving up the temperatures. We're affecting the spread of diseases. We're bringing a whole lot of new hazards, especially for the more vulnerable people in our community, older people, younger people, remote communities, people living on lower incomes. It exacerbates health challenges. It widens those inequalities. So getting off gas onto clean energy, that's fundamental to protecting everything we hold dear.
There has been a very concerted effort by the gas industry to portray it as being clean and healthy and as a transition fuel and so on. We know that that's not the case. If you have a gas stove at home, if you can transition to a cleaner electric appliance, please do so. If not, at least use your exhaust fan, ventilate as well as you can, keep kids out of the kitchen. There is good evidence now that running an all-electric home is cheaper, but we recognise that electric appliances often have a greater upfront cost. So that's where governments really need to step in and help out families, particularly low-income families who can't take on that immediate cost.
Eleanor is a really active child. She loves to run, she loves to climb trees, she loves to jump on the trampoline and scoot around. She's just really, really active. So we're just so glad that we were able to recognise that it was gas in the home that was causing her this trouble, and we were able to get off it, and that made a difference for her. Okay, rhinoceros botfly.
You have that.
Yeah, you have that one. Climate change is a huge concern for me as a parent. I'm concerned about their future health and their future well-being, and I just feel it's really important that as a country and as households and families that we start transitioning away from fossil fuels in order to ensure their safety and their future.